Welcome to Headline Hub Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Breaking news from Scarborough Shoal, September 16, 2025. The tension in this region has reached a boiling point, capturing the world's attention. The South China Sea erupted into chaos as the Philippine Coast Guard's BRP Gabriela Silang attempted a routine resupply for local fishermen. These operations, once mundane, have now become perilous missions fraught with danger. Suddenly, a massive Chinese Coast Guard cutter charged in, unleashing high-pressure water cannons. The scene was chaotic, with the sound of rushing water and the cries of the crew echoing across the sea. The deluge shattered windows and sent the Filipino crew scrambling for cover. The force of the water was relentless, a stark reminder of the power imbalance at play. This was no accident, it was a calculated show of force. The Chinese Coast Guard's actions were deliberate, aimed at asserting dominance in these contested waters. The Chinese vessel closed in, blaring its horn, making clear its intent to intimidate and damage. The sound was deafening, a clear message of aggression. The Filipino crew, though shaken, documented every moment, determined to show the world what was happening. Their bravery in the face of such intimidation is commendable. Scarborough Shoal, a traditional Filipino fishing ground, has become a symbol of this David and Goliath struggle. The fishermen's livelihoods are at stake, caught in the crossfire of international politics. Today's attack is part of a disturbing pattern. China's tactics are growing bolder, the risks higher. Each confrontation escalates tensions, bringing the region closer to a potential flashpoint. The use of water cannons, once shocking, is now routine, each incident more intense than the last. The frequency and severity of these attacks are alarming, the goal to make it impossible for the Philippines to access its own waters. The blockade is a strategic move to assert control and deny access to vital resources. For Filipino fishermen and Coast Guard crews, the South China Sea is now a front line. Every day is a battle for survival and sovereignty. The question in Manila tonight, not if another incident will happen, but when and how much worse it will be. The uncertainty weighs heavily on the nation. The world is watching as the stakes rise. International bodies are being called to address the escalating tensions and seek a peaceful resolution. The struggle for control of these waters is far from over. As the sun sets over the South China Sea, the future remains uncertain, with both sides standing firm in their resolve. In response to growing tensions and repeated confrontations in the South China Sea, the Philippines, under the leadership of President Marcos Jr., is stepping up as a champion for a diplomatic solution. President Marcos Jr. has made it clear that the Philippines seeks peace, stability, and cooperation in the region, rather than conflict or escalation. Manila is actively pushing for a legally binding code of conduct for the South China Sea, one that would establish real rules, clear guidelines, and meaningful consequences for violations. This code aims to bring all parties to the table and ensure that everyone abides by the same standards. The primary goal is to prevent dangerous incidents like those at Scarborough Shoal, where Filipino fishermen have faced harassment and uncertainty, to protect the livelihoods of local fishermen and to guarantee safe and fair access to the region's valuable resources for all who depend on them. The Philippines is demanding the establishment of clear protocols for maritime conduct, a strict ban on the use of force, and the creation of an independent international body to monitor and enforce the code, ensuring that no single country can act above the law. If successful, this initiative could transform the South China Sea from a flashpoint of conflict into a region governed by law, mutual respect, and peaceful cooperation. However, negotiations have dragged on for years, with China often stalling the process while simultaneously consolidating its control over disputed areas and expanding its presence. Manila's bold move is designed to break this stalemate, rally international support, and put renewed diplomatic pressure on Beijing to engage in good faith. The critical question remains: does China truly want peace and stability in the region? Or does it intend to keep making its own rules and expanding its influence unchecked? The world is watching closely, waiting for an answer, as the outcome will shape the future of the South China Sea and the broader region. The stakes for regional peace, security, and prosperity have never been higher, making this diplomatic effort more urgent than ever before. The South China Sea is Southeast Asia's economic lifeblood and strategic heart. Stretching over 3.5 million square kilometers, it connects some of the world's busiest ports and is a crossroads for global commerce. Every year, trillions of dollars worth of goods pass through these waters, making it one of the most important maritime highways on the planet. For the Philippines, the South China Sea is a vital source of food, jobs, and energy. Its rich fishing grounds feed millions, and its seabed holds untapped oil and gas reserves that could power the nation's future. Entire coastal communities depend on these waters for their daily survival and economic well-being. For China, it's a critical shipping route and a key to energy security and industrial growth. The sea lanes here are essential for importing oil and exporting manufactured goods, fueling China's rise as a global economic powerhouse. Control of these waters means leverage over global trade and regional rivals. Whoever dominates the South China Sea can influence the flow of goods, energy, and even military power across Asia and beyond. The sea is also a geopolitical chessboard. China's military outposts and artificial islands challenge U.S. naval power and threaten regional stability. These fortified positions have transformed the area into a potential flashpoint for conflict. For the Philippines and its neighbors, it's about sovereignty and survival. They face daily challenges from encroachment, illegal fishing, and the risk of losing control over their own waters. The U.S. and its allies insist on freedom of navigation, conducting regular patrols to assert international law and keep tensions high, determined to prevent any single nation from dominating the sea. The South China Sea is now a flashpoint between global powers, with smaller nations caught in the middle, forced to navigate a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and shifting interests. The stakes, sovereignty, security, and the balance of power in Asia, could shape the region's future for generations to come. At the heart of the conflict is China's 9-dash line, claiming nearly the entire South China Sea based on historic rights. This claim overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei. The Philippines relies on international law, specifically UNCLOS, which grants it a 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. In 2016, an international tribunal sided with the Philippines, declaring China's claim invalid. China rejected the ruling, calling it waste paper, and doubled down on its activities. Beijing's refusal to accept international law is the central obstacle to peace. The Philippines holds a legal victory, but China holds physical control. The result: a dangerous and unstable standoff. The world's rules are clear, but enforcement remains elusive. China's rejection of the tribunal ruling is visible daily in Philippine waters. Chinese vessels conduct unauthorized research, swarm reefs with maritime militia, and blockade key fishing grounds. These gray zone tactics intimidate Filipino fishermen and assert control without open conflict. At Scarborough and Second Thomas Shoals, Chinese ships block resupply missions and harass Philippine forces. It's a coordinated strategy to turn legal claims into reality on the water. For the Philippines, it's a slow-motion invasion, a daily struggle for sovereignty. Manila is forced to innovate to push back against a much larger neighbor. Confrontations have escalated from harassment to dangerous physical contact. Water cannon attacks now routinely damage Philippine ships and endanger crews. Ramming incidents are deliberate, designed to intimidate and block access. The size difference between Chinese and Philippine vessels makes every encounter perilous. The most alarming escalation: Chinese personnel boarding Philippine boats, seizing equipment, and injuring sailors. These are not isolated incidents. They're part of a systematic campaign of coercion. China is testing the Philippines' resolve, raising the stakes with each act. The risk of deadly miscalculation grows with every confrontation. The Philippines faces a calculated campaign of violence at sea. The world is left to wonder, how far will this go? The region stands on a knife's edge. Outmatched at sea, the Philippines has turned to assertive transparency. Journalists now join every patrol, documenting Chinese aggression in real time. High-resolution videos and photos are released within hours, exposing the truth to the world. This strategy controls the narrative, counters Chinese denials, and damages Beijing's image. Dramatic footage rallies international support and puts pressure on China. Allies like the US, Japan, and the EU respond not just to reports, but to undeniable evidence. Assertive transparency raises the diplomatic cost of every Chinese action. Filipino crews feel empowered, knowing the world is watching. It's an asymmetric strategy, information as a weapon. While China has more ships, the Philippines wields the power of truth. The camera has become Manila's most effective tool. In 2025, the Philippines passed the Maritime Zones Act, defining its maritime boundaries under UNCLOS. The law asserts sovereignty over its territorial sea and exclusive economic zone, providing a legal foundation for enforcement. It empowers the Navy and Coast Guard to protect fishermen and resources. China condemned the law, insisting on its own claims. The act highlights the core dispute: international law versus China's historical narrative. For Manila, it's more than symbolism. It's a proactive defense of its territory. The law strengthens the Philippines' hand in diplomacy and legal action. It marks a shift from protest to active defense of maritime rights. The ultimate diplomatic goal is a binding code of conduct for the South China Sea. Such a code could prevent future clashes and protect sovereign rights. But China resists any agreement that limits its power or invalidates the 9-dash line. The Philippines and ASEAN want a code with teeth, legally binding, enforceable, and consistent with international law. China prefers vague guidelines that legitimize its control. Endless negotiations allow Beijing to strengthen its position while appearing cooperative. The future of peace in the South China Sea hangs in the balance. Assertive transparency and legal reforms have put pressure on China, but its stance remains unchanged. The real question: will Beijing accept a rules-based order, or keep rewriting the rules? The answer will shape Asia's future and the world's.